I'm not kidding. They are right now, China has a trade surplus. A trade surplus is the value of everything you export minus everything you import. So they have a trade surplus with the world. And if you want to understand how a trade surplus works, it's kind of like the opposite of what the black community does with white people. Like if you want to know how a trade surplus works, a trade surplus basically says that I'm selling you more stuff than you're selling me. That's it. That's all it says. It says I'm selling you. You're buying my stuff, but I ain't buying your stuff. I don't get high on my own supply, but I'm serving these fiends all day, right? To go street with it. Does that make sense? Give me a yes if you understand that, right? So that's kind of what China does. China is uh they are the original gangster with the rest of the world when it comes to economics because they understand powernomics probably as well as Dr. Claude Anderson himself. And Dr. Claude Anderson, he's the goatiest of all goats. We know these things. And you know how much I love this man. But I'm gonna just tell you, when you talk about the implementation of a powernomics philosophy, the Chinese have it down. The Chinese are like, I'm the producer, you're the consumer, and that's how it's gonna be. When I get my money, when you get your money, you trick it off. You're supposed to spend it because you're a dumb American. When I get my money, no, we're gonna say we're not buying your stuff. And if we buy some stuff in China, we're not gonna buy the American stuff. We're gonna buy the Chinese stuff. So the same way that we talk about being B1, the Chinese are kind of C1. They're like, no, China first. You want to sell us a car? No, will buy we buy Chinese car. You want to sell us an iPhone? No, we make Chinese iPhone. We call it Chai phone. That's what the Chinese do. The Chinese, they're like, no, no, I don't, I don't support your family. I support me family. I support my family. That's kind of what they do. And so I mean, I'm not mad at them for it at all. I think it's amazing and it's very powerful. So let me kind of give you some stats to kind of help you understand the severity of the massive economic imbalance that the Chinese are creating. They're what they're doing in a way is they're kind of doing the same things that America used to do. America used to manufacture stuff. Did y'all know that? We used to make things. And we used to make more things than anybody else in the world. That's how we won wars. That's how we won World War II and probably even World War One. Is we just knew how to like we could make like whatever for every one bullet you made, we'd make 100. For every one ship you could make, we'd make 10. For every one airplane you made, we'd make 50. And that was how America won. America was very productive because we knew how to manufacture things, and we lost that. We threw that away. Trade agreements, globalism, all that. So now America doesn't make stuff. That's what you go to cities like Gary, Indiana, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Detroit, Michigan. You see depleted manufacturing bases that don't exist as much as they used to because we just decided, oh, we don't need to make stuff. We're gonna let other people make stuff, and then we'll just let them serve it back to us. And so the Chinese said, okay, we're gonna take over manufacturing. We're just gonna be the greatest manufacturer on the planet. So here are three reasons why. Here's what's going on with China. So let me give you some stats here. I pulled some stats. And by the way, I want to mention, I forgot to tell you that if you want to come to the Ghana informational session, I didn't follow through on my thoughts. Sorry about that. ADHD kicking in again. Is if you get on the text list, I will text you a link to join us for the Ghana informational session tonight with Jay Cameron. You can get on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948. Text the word morning to 87948. Also, for those of you that do stock options with us in the Prime program, I sent you all a video where I was showing you a strategy to adjust to what's going on in the market to generate cash flow. And one of the great students, Errol, another Errol, there's two Errols, both of them are super smart. There's an Errol who has his son. He and his son are learning stock options together. I hope he didn't mind me mentioning that because I think that this is a template for every family. And so Errol asked me to do an example selling puts, and I did and because that's something I'd actually been doing. So I actually sent you all the video link where you can actually apply that strategy, and I did it in my portfolio and generated quite a bit of money that allowed me to deal with the market decline yesterday. So if you want to know more about stock options, and it's a great way to generate income, it's better to me. It's far better than real estate stuff. Like we've talked about this. Feel free to go to drboyceprime.com, or you can also text the word options to the number 87948. Text options to 87948. All right, so let me give you some stats on China. So here's the deal with China. Here are five powerful stats for China's economic dominance. Number one, China accounts for 28% of global manufacturing output, making it the world's largest manufacturer by far. The country's manufacturing sector produces a vast array of goods from electronics to textiles. Anything you need, they got it. We got what you need. We serving these fiends. Number two, China is the largest exporter of goods in the world, with its exports valued at $3.5 trillion per year. 3.5 trillion. That's massive. This accounts for 14% of global exports, cementing its position as a key player in global supply chains. If China stopped manufacturing things, everything was shut down. And that's a national security risk for America. And we'll talk about that in a minute. China manufactures over 50%, 50% of the world's electronics, including smartphones, computers, and televisions, which is crazy. Let's see. China has the largest labor force in terms of people that are involved in manufacturing. There are over 100 million people that they have working in the sector. This allows China to maintain its edge in low-cost manufacturing because the cost of labor is not that high, which is a huge advantage. And also, China's industrial output is valued at more than $4 trillion, which is more than any other country, dwarfing other global manufacturing hubs. This includes everything from steel to machinery, placing China at the center of global production networks. Now, let me continue to tell you why I believe the Chinese are going to dominate the world. Um, I saw the head of the FBI, the former FBI director, on his exit interview as he's leaving office. He said that basically the Chinese have an investing strategy that is something Americans really can't match. And the reason I say it's an investing strategy is because we talked about what investing is. Investing is not it's not about the money. Stop thinking about the money. Some people think I'm always talking about the money. It ain't about no damn money. The money's not the most interesting part. What it is about the Chinese investing strategy is mindset. As Terrence says, they play the long game. They're very patient. They're very patient. And patient people who are committed to delayed gratification will kick you in your ass every time. Like you never want to really get into a war with a really patient person. Like I had a friend the one time that was like kind of a gangster, like she was a drug dealer, and she had a past that we didn't talk much about. And I said, I ain't gonna ask you nothing about nothing that happened in the 90s. But we were talking about her experiences a little bit. She was speaking like hypotheticals, right? So she would be like, well, if I wanted to go and get revenge on somebody, I would not do anything right away because the police are paying attention or whatever. She says, so I would let you think that it was over. I would let you wait 4, 5, 6 years and let your guard down and get into your comfort zone. And then I would go and handle my business. So that's what she did. She said, I would just wait. I would just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And eventually they just think, oh, it's over. It's all in the past. And then one day, next thing your dog is boiling on the stove or something or whatever, right? So, so basically, so patience is not just powerful in life, but it's powerful in investing, actually, incredibly powerful. Warren Buffett actually says that wealth is nothing but a transfer of money from impatient people to patient people, impatient people to patient people. And so capitalism thrives in America largely because we create a society full of highly impatient people. Tell me if I'm lying. Instant gratification, gotta have it now. Dopamine spike, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, right? And again, like the dope dealers, they're serving them fiends. Like you want some Instagram? Yeah, yeah. Scroll, right? You want sports betting? Yeah, yeah. Cowboys. I'm betting on the Cowboys. Don't do that because you'll lose your money. But like whatever. Like we have this society that's built on all this instant gratification. And you see it kind of pile up in a lot of areas, like relationships. Oh, if it's the third date and I ain't getting none, then I'm out. I'm out, right? If you can't spend $300 on a first date, I'm gone, right? And so what happens is that there's the short-term benefit, but there's a long-term cost. There's a long-term cost. And what I see in terms of the long-term price people are paying is number one, people are lonelier than ever. A lot of marriages don't last. A lot of people are disconnected from each other. Most young guys in their 20s haven't even slept with a woman in over a year, like 75% or something crazy like that, which is just unbelievable. And then people get older, and and then they sort of realize, like, wait, I didn't invest in people. I thought kids were a burden. I thought a spouse would just hold me back. So now I'm 65 years old and I don't have what I wish I'd had if I'd made different choices when I was younger. There's a retirement crisis. Millions of people are not ready for retirement. A lot of people, because again, instant gratification over delayed gratification. So when I come along and I say, well, if you had just put $1,800 in Apple stock in 1997, you'd have $4 million right now. Well, then next thing you know, people are like, so first off, there's the regret, right? It's like, man, I had $1,800 several times in 1997. I could have done it. I could have bought some stock with that. And then you get these impossible questions like I retire in 2 years. How do I turn $1,800 into $1 million in 2 years? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. That's like asking me to make delicious Kool-Aid when you don't give me no sugar and no water. You can't make Kool-Aid without sugar and water. If anybody's ever tried that, you know it does not work. What am I supposed to do? Spit in the bucket? Like it ain't gonna work. You need water to make your damn Kool-Aid. So you need time a lot of times to build your wealth. If you throw away time, then you've kind of thrown away your opportunity. So millions of Americans are in the middle of a retirement crisis. Millions of Americans are lonelier than ever because they didn't invest in relationships. Millions of Americans are in a physical health crisis. I saw a stat the other day that said 48% of all women over 55 are going to get dementia at some point. Also, nearly half of all Americans are going to die from cancer. There are easy, simple studies out there that talk about the link between sugar and cancer, and processed food and cancer, and obesity and cancer, right? But then but then there's a price to be paid if you're getting up and going to the gym, if you're avoiding the sugar and the salt and all these other in the processed food, right? So it's hard to do. It's very hard to do, especially when they're putting it in your face, right? They're putting it in your face because capitalism is it's almost like the original kind of artificial intelligence. Capitalism, when it is at its worst, it's like this really smart demon that literally has pierced your soul. It can read your mind. It knows what you want. It knows how to tempt you. It knows where your greed lies in your darkest spots, and it knows how to say, "Oh, you want more of this, don't you? You want some more? You want here? Take some more ice cream, right? And right here, have some sex. You want some sex, don't you? Right? And that's what happens, right? That's why spirituality and consciousness, I think, is really important because that helps you rise up above all that, right? Because we are, to some extent, we are kind of like slaves to the flesh in a way, like the cravings and desires and all. So that's what things like the therapy really matter. Because if you get the therapy, then you get the self-awareness. You can kind of look at yourself and say, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't where I want to be. So now I'm going to take a different process of life optimization. I'm going to invest differently. I'm going to make sure I still enjoy my life, but I'm going to enjoy it in a way where I can enjoy it over a long period of time and not just have a lot of fun right now and pay a big price later on. The Chinese, I think, are dominant economically largely because they incorporate this into their society for children at a very early age. Like their children at an early age. You might have seen those videos on Instagram of like Chinese kindergartners in school and the crazy stuff they're doing. Like they'll be cooking and making like building buildings and like making like sewing sweaters and or they'll play even when they play basketball. They're so much better than like they'll have like 20 kids and they'll all be dribbling a basketball in sync. And like one, you ever see that where they're one like there'll be like a circle of kids. Try to imagine this, right? They'd have a big circle of kids and like maybe 30, and they would have a basketball on each side of each kid. And then they would dribble and then they would move and then take over the dribble for the next ball and then move again and take the dribble for the next ball. And the amount of coordination is very powerful. And when I taught in China, when I taught finance in China back, I think it was about 2006, I noticed that they are in sync unlike anything I've ever seen. You want to talk about unity? We can't come we can't even dream of having that level of unity. I've never seen that level of unity. Like it's almost like they are a cyborg. They are literally they operate like the same person. It is scary and it is amazing. And what I think that they do because they're at war with the United States is they use our impatience, our lack of discipline, and our lack of unity against us. They do. They're like, oh, these people, they believe in stuff like democracy and freedom, which is, I think, actually, I like democracy and freedom. I do. That's a downside of China. They don't let you have that, right? They put the group over the individual. And every strategy has its pros and its cons. So their belief is like, hey, look, the individual is not as important as the collective, and some of you agree with that, but at the same time, when you do want to express individual liberties, there's a limitation on that, right? So every system isn't perfect. It's hard to be all things all the time to everyone, but I can tell you that their unity is something that is, I think, going to make them very dominant, and it's what's allowed them to amass a tremendous amount of power. China's in, I think they had a 100-year plan for world domination that they started in about the 1970s or 1980s, and they're about year 50 of that plan. So in, 40, 50 years with your grandkids, I would say they should learn Chinese, but they actually don't have to now. You can get AI glasses that'll translate everything for you, but they should probably just get used to the idea of another country being the global economic superpower. So let me continue this. Let me lay out some more ways that China's economic dominance helps them to win. Just a reminder also, don't forget that today at noon, we are meeting for Stock Market Tuesdays. So if you want to come in and ask me questions about the stock market, we'll break down the stocks that I like in terms of good investments right now. We'll also kind of do some lessons on how the market works and just whatever you guys need today. So we're going to do that at noon. So if you want to join us and do a free trial, go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. All right, so here are basically three reasons why China's trade surplus gives it a lot of power. First off, a trade surplus allows China to accumulate a lot of foreign reserves. They can pull in currency from other countries like the U.S. dollar. So this enables China to maintain a strong currency and support domestic policies like infrastructure development, social programs, things like that. So those reserves also give them financial leverage, so they can invest globally and really have a lot of influence in other economies. So if they've got yen and euros and dollars and everything else, they can go to these places and make things happen. They also have a lot of economic influence. So if you run a trade surplus, they can basically shape global trade and investment patterns. So basically, with China's surplus, they become a major player in global markets. They drive demand for their own goods and services, and they gain the ability to set favorable terms. So he who has the gold makes the rules. China has a lot of the gold. Also, debt financing. So basically, what China does is they lend capital to other countries, especially countries like African countries right now. Anybody ever notice how their influence in Africa has just spiraled out of control? Jamaica. When I was in Jamaica, there was this big highway that went from Kingston all the way up to the north. I don't remember the cities up in the north, but there's this highway, and it was this beautiful, smooth highway. But I noticed there were no cars on the highway, and that was because the Chinese had built this beautiful highway to avoid having to go through the mountains and everything. Going through the mountains and stuff, I think took like 2 or 3 hours, and it was a really scary drive. It was really crazy. So Chinese had built this beautiful highway, but there were no cars on it because the toll was so high. But they had gotten these crazy 99-year leases on all the land going all the way up to the north. And it just really was like, I don't think this was a good deal for Jamaica, but it's a great deal for China. So they use debt financing to gain leverage over other countries, right? So that's no different from you having people in your family where if you have all the money and cousin Pookie comes and says, I want to borrow money, but you want cousin Pookie to start taking care of his kids and stop smoking dope so much. Well, you could, start making rules. You can say, look, if you want my money, you're going to have to change certain things. You're going to have to go to rehab. You're going to have to stop, you have to stop doing X, Y, Z. You're going to have to show up and rake the leaves every day, right? Money talks. Money talks. Period. That's the world we live in. Money talks. So people that are trained on money early, children that are raised in an environment that is economically intelligent and leads to various forms of economic self-sufficiency and the ability to invest for the future and thrive in the future, those individuals tend to have a lot more power than other people. You don't believe me? Just ask the white man. Because a lot of y'all, many of us growing up, pretty much had to do what Massa told us to do every day. If he said get to work by 9 o'clock and be on time, we'd get there at 8:55. If he said work until 5, we'd work until 5:01. If he says don't call your friends while you at work or you're going to get fired, we don't call our friends. Many of us are more loyal to our boss than we are to our own damn spouse, right? And we know what that is. A lot of us have seen this. And where does that come from? Well, it comes from money. If you want to look at the source of black spiritual and political incarceration, It's money. It always comes back to money. And to break out of this horrible rut, it doesn't require you to become a millionaire. You don't have to have $1 million in the bank to be financially free. All you got to do is be able to pay your own bills. That's it. If you can pay your own bills, then it's much harder for people to tell you what to do or where to be or how to do it or anything like that. So to me, if you're raising kids and you're raising black kids and you want them to be free, I mean, you could tell them to go to Al Sharpton marches and pray to white Jesus and everything else, but I'd rather just teach them how to pay their own bills. That's it. If the person who can pay their bills has freedom. Remember when you were little and you say something to your parents, well, so and so said blah blah blah, and they'd be like, well, they don't pay no bills in this house. So you known this your whole life. My mother used to say that. My mother was like, they don't pay no bills up in this house. So my thought, honestly, is if we can get to the point where we just say, I want to be in a space where nobody who oppresses me, no one who hates me is going to be paying bills in my house, that will go a long way toward freedom. That, in fact, that would pretty much give you free. I can just tell you, when you have enough money to pay your own bills, you don't have to listen to shit. Like you really don't. I don't have to. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission to come and talk to you today because I paid the cost to be the boss. I would make money and I invested money to do all the things that I do now. And I did all that because I don't want nobody telling me what to do. I don't want to be getting kicked around. I don't want to be disrespected. When I was 18 years old, and my girlfriend was pregnant and I was on that college campus trying to figure out what my next move was going to be, had no money in the bank, didn't know how I was going to make it. I knew a couple of things. One, I did not want to go back to work at Taco Bell because I got disrespected a lot. And number two, I didn't want to be punked. I didn't want anybody kicking me around. I didn't, I wanted to be a grown man. I didn't want to be in a space where I was treated like a little boy or just put through misery that I had no say in. So I kind of saw education as a way to invest early in my life at a significant level so that long term I would have some freedom. So freedom is typically not free. Freedom is something that has a price to be paid. And one of the things that I think you have to confront is when you see it is those who claim they want freedom but aren't willing to sacrifice for it. There's no individual, no country, nobody, anybody, no one on earth in the history of this world that's ever had freedom and could not fight to obtain it and could not fight to defend it. If you cannot fight to obtain your freedom and defend your freedom, then you will have no freedom. You will have no freedom. Somebody will come along, beat you up, and take all your stuff. That's what happens in a capitalist society, but that's really what happens in the jungle of humanity. We are animals at the end of the day. I'm not saying that we're 100% animals. Yeah, we're separate. We have the prefrontal cortex. We're a little bit different from the animals, but at the end of the day, go watch some bears or some lions or some cats or some chickens fight over territory and see how the weak chicken does. The little punk ass chicken that's crying and whining every time a chicken beats him up. You think they're gonna feel sorry for him and give him something? No, they're gonna beat him up and take his stuff. They're gonna say, okay, you've identified yourself. You are the weakest link. Mother Nature says you shouldn't even survive. Survival of the fittest. Darwinism says you shouldn't even exist. You certainly should be allowed to reproduce because you got these weak, punk, inferior genes. So we're just gonna beat you up, take all your stuff, make your life miserable, and kill you. Or you look in a prison. You ever see in a prison? Like it's kind of sad, what they do to the weak, to the weakest in the prisons, right? So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I vehemently reject the way black people have been trained to perceive ourselves and perceive each other. I think that we are trained to just feel sorry for ourselves and to be sad and to just politely ask white people to please change your behavior and all this other stuff. And then you see shenanigans. You see a lack of disciplined behavior. Like Dr. Claude Anderson writes about this in Powernomics. He talks about what he calls inappropriate behavior. You out here buffooning, cooning, and twerking and acting a fool, don't want to open a book, but and all these other things, but then you somehow expect the world to respect you. It does not work that way. It does not work that way. To get respect, you got to show up and command respect. If you command no respect, then you will not get it. So anyway, let me keep going because I don't want to offend nobody, but this is the reality. And so I think that the way we're even taught to think about race is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. I think that our children should be taught to compete. That's it. Yeah, they may not like you because you're black, but who cares? Why do you even need somebody else to like you like that? What's wrong with you? Your mother should like you. You should like yourself. The need to be liked is a weak to some extent. That's a weakness, actually. That's something people can exploit. Oh, you need us to like you. Okay, well, do what we say, or we're going to say that we don't like you. We're going to call you ugly. We're going to call you stupid. We're going to take away your Oscar, your Grammy, your Nobel Prize, whatever little stupid awards we've invented to make you to give you your self-esteem. We're going to take those things away. We're going to take away your little fancy job. You won't have the corner office no more. You won't be the chosen Negro anymore because you're not behaving appropriately. So what we do is we learn over time that if you behave, then they're gonna hook you up. So we have a lot of well-behaved Negroes that are in corporate America and other places because we know that if we get out of line, there's going to be an economic consequence. And I don't know, maybe I mean I know my whole life I've kind of been the rebellious kid a little bit. I when I was in elementary school, I used to stay in detention, and I don't even know what it was. I would try. I'd be like, I'm trying to fit in. I'm trying to. I would just every damn day, and it was like, damn, I'm, I'm suspended again. I gotta stay after school again. I would stay in detention. Like I would just sign myself up for detention at the start of the day because I knew at some point something was gonna pop off. And I guess it must have just been like I don't know, like if something didn't make no sense, I'd be like, well, I'm not doing that, or that doesn't, or if I wanted to just do something, I would just do it. I have no idea. My mother used to say, "Yo, boy, your mouth will either make you great or get you killed. I'm curious to see which one." And when I met Cornell West for the first time, he's such a wonderful human being. And I let me tell you about the time I met Cornell. It was really, really cool. We did something in Brooklyn in 2013 where I had put out this book. It's out there somewhere. You can go find it. It's probably free. It was called Wealth, Education, Family, and Community: A New Paradigm for Black America. And I was kind of doing like a little tour on that book, and Cornell joined me in Brooklyn. And but we met in Manhattan. So I walked in this restaurant in the middle of Manhattan, and it was a fancy restaurant I never heard of, full of white people. And in this restaurant, he let me tell you what he did. This is the kind of guy he is. He gets up in the middle of the restaurant and he walks over and he gets on one knee and he grabs my hand and like bows to me on one knee. And all these white people are like, what's happening right now? Who are these Negroes bowing to? Like, what's going on? And I was like, wow, like he's such a great, humble person. I'm like, stand up, man. Like, this is kind of if I feel like I'm Eddie Murphy and Coming to America. But anyway, when I told him what my and then when we sat down and talked, he told me that he literally knew my parents. He said Robin Watkins, blah blah blah, Larry Watkins, blah blah blah. He had read my Wikipedia page, and he knew my father was a police officer. He knew my mother was a social worker. He knew that my parents are a little more on the conservative side. That's their choice. That's who they are. Because cops, my dad's a soldier and a cop. He's black, 100% black, but he's not into the shenanigans. He's not into feeling sorry for yourself. That's kind of how he was built. And it was just really interesting. Like so just that if you want to know my bias about Cornel West, that's where it comes from. It's like I said, wow, this guy, and I spent years with him and I watched people very closely. Like I spent hours and hours with Al Sharpton, and I told you I felt like, okay, there's a game being played here, almost like a mafia type of game. It's about power. And but he also is a genius. He's extremely smart. The man is you cannot tell me that he's stupid. Cornell came off as a genuine soul. I observed him closely as he interacted with every person on the street because people recognize him more than me, and white people don't really know who I am, and I don't, and I like it that way. Whereas with him, lots of people were stopping him, and I just liked the way he treated everybody. It was something that just told me, like, wow, I wish we had more people like this running the country because we'd have a better world. I really believe that. But anyway, I remember I told him, I said, yeah, my mother used to say, boy, your mouth will either make you great or get you killed. I'm curious to see which one. And he said, I think it might be both. He said, I think it's gonna be both, brother. And I said, yeah, you might be right about that, but that's okay. I'm all right. I'm willing to die for what I believe in. So let me finish up with this China thing. Okay, so in terms of China's economic dominance and the fact that they have this massive trade surplus, this is something I think the black community should pay attention to because what happens when you have a trade surplus is that the people that are buying all your stuff, where you're not buying any of their stuff, they're at a natural economic disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage. So for the black community, when you see how little we are actually producing for the world, how little others support black owned businesses, how black owned businesses get boycotted by two groups. They get boycotted by black people and they get boycotted by white people, but we'll go support their businesses in a second. Like we attach purchasing things from them to our self-esteem. Like I feel like I'm a better man because I got this label on my body, this Coach, Gucci, Louis, Prada, whatever. I'm picking up a bottle of the Henny when I go to the club, right? Whatever it is, right? We tend to like really enjoy these labels because they're attached to our self-esteem. Go watch the video How to Sell to the Negro. So what's happened is that basically they do to us what China does to the world. That's why China is going to dominate. In fact, let me read this here. China has strategic influence or all around the world because of sorry, I lost my screen, because of the trade surplus, right? So effectively, when they go in and your money talks and the BS walks, China is pretty much able to declare war on you without actually firing a single bullet. Like they don't have to fight you to destroy you. And they don't have to tell you that they're going to destroy you. The Chinese are very polite. I remember when I was in China, I noticed that one thing that someone told me culturally, and I don't want to stereotype, but they were literally saying like Chinese people typically don't say no to anything, right? They won't say no to you. So if you say, "Hey, I need to use $1 million. Can you give me $1 million in 3 hours?" A lot of people they won't say no. Like here, we'll be like, "Hell no! What are you talking about?" They'll be like, uh, I need to think about that. So that's what they kind of do. So they're very polite, extremely polite. And so what they'll kind of do with other countries, I've noticed, is they'll go and you'll do something they don't like, and they'll be very polite. They're like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And then next thing you know, your goods are not getting through the port in China, or you or they've been done some sort of embargo on you economically that's decimated you financially. So they're very subtle about that. They declare economic warfare, not so much direct warfare. They don't want to go to direct war with the United States, but the FBI director mentioned something really interesting about how the Chinese investment strategy works. Because they don't just invest in things that generate money, they invest in power. And one thing that he said the Chinese have done is he said they have planted a bunch of bugs in a malware viruses, computer viruses in a lot of essential American infrastructure. They basically said that they're just sitting there. They're waiting. They're just waiting. Like, okay, go ahead and do something. Go ahead and say something. And what they said they can do is they can then at that point activate these Trojan horses to poison our water systems, to mess up our electrical grid, shut down all the cell phones in the United States, whatever, right? And this is what he said he was deeply concerned about. So just keep that in mind. Like if we go to war with China, they know how to fight just in sneaky little ways. Like I think they fight through social media. With all that conversation about Russia and China, getting all these ads on social media to basically kind of pit people against each other. And they're very aware of, for example, the racial divide in America. So there will be, these Chinese bots that pretend to be, strong black women on the internet who have all these opinions or angry black men or whatever that will just pour fuel on the fire to create civil war. Thank you, Sharon. That's the right word, right? So they know this. They use America's divisions against us. So here is if you want a couple of lessons that I think we can apply as a black community to learn from China. First off, there's economic independence and wealth building. So as you know, the same way China accumulates the reserves as a source of power, I think that we should build wealth and achieve economic independence as the number one objective for our whole entire community. That has to be near the top of our priority list. So that means owning businesses. We cannot keep producing employees. Stop producing employees. Stop producing people that are consumers and employees and renters and all these other things. You cannot do that. You cannot thrive and grow when you're on the white man's economic nipple. You cannot live like that. I'm not saying you can't work with other people. I'm not saying that you're a sucker for getting a job. I'm not saying that you should get mad because a white man walked in the room. None of that. I'm talking about stop taking pride in being horrifically overly dependent on another community. That is a vulnerability. That's a national security issue. Malcolm X, a great black nationalist that he was, would understand this. He shared this. He mentioned this. He fought for this. So what happens is that It's really weird. I remember when Damon Dash went on to The Breakfast Club and did that epic interview where he was really talking about having your own business and all, and he was doing it in a Dame Dash kind of way, right? It wasn't perfect. Dame, I told you he's not perfect. I spent a lot of time with the guy and I like him, but he's different. But I remember I remember when I got a call from Charlemagne, and he's like, yeah, man, he said, I need you to come and calm down people because I got brothers calling me, they gonna quit, telling me they gonna quit their jobs tomorrow, they gonna quit their job tomorrow. And I said, yeah, I said, well, I can fix it, I can patch it up a little bit, but he's kind of right. These men, some of these men, he was talking a lot to the men, but I'm sure the women got it too, and I think women can relate as well. I said, some of these guys got to grow their balls back, man. They got to get their testicles reattached to their bodies. Like you can't just, he said, well, white people can go and get jobs and also. I said, yeah, but you got to understand, man, you're not white. You're not white. I'm not saying that we can't get jobs and that we don't deserve jobs. I'm not saying that at all. Right? You go to, you get your master's degree from Brown University or something. You should get that job at the investment bank that you apply for. But what if you don't? What if you don't? What if it doesn't work out? What if they treat you like the rest of us? What if you go through what I went through, where I had the highest grade point average of every black student on the entire University of Kentucky campus? I got two bachelor's degrees in 4 years, could have had three if I'd taken one more class, just didn't care. And I applied to 200 Wall Street firms, 250 to be exact. I got rejected by every single one of them. Every one of them, because I didn't have the network. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get these. I just thought you fill out the application, send in your resume, you have good grades, good things are going to happen. It didn't happen like that. I got 250 rejection letters to my house. What now what? Now what we going to do? What's the plan B, damn it? Am I supposed to sit around, man? These white people, man. I could have been somebody if they wasn't tripping this stuff. They don't be liking black people. They just don't like you cause you black. They like I'm not like, what problem is that going to solve? How is that ever going to fix anything? I have to have a plan B. Maybe God is trying. Remember the color purple? God is trying to tell you something, right? So God is trying to tell me something. God was like, number one, these folks don't like you. Number two, their conversations about diversity is bull crap. I'm not gonna say bullshit because I don't want to cuss, but you know what I want to say. And then number three, it means you got to find another way. This system ain't built for you. You're not white, Boyce. Stop thinking that you're white. You're not, your name's not Royce, you're Boyce. And you have to figure out a way you're gonna make this thing work. Where get in where you fit in. Figure it out. So to me, owning businesses and investing is essential for any black person, especially any black person with a strong black identity. Any black person with a strong black identity who wants to reach their fullest potential. Ownership is a must. Any black person with a strong black identity who wants to reach their fullest potential, who also wants to maximize their economic possibilities. Ownership is the key. Any black person who wants to reach their fullest potential with a strong black identity, who wants to maximize their income, who wants to have a little bit of power in this world, ownership is essential. Any black person who wants to reach their fullest potential, who has a strong black identity, who wants to maximize their income, who wants to have power, who wants to have a solid say in the structure of their families and their community, ownership is essential. Ownership is essential. Ownership is essential. You cannot go through life without owning something in this country, or you will be fried and cooked, stomped out, and busted and disgusted. If you don't believe me, just look around. I don't have to talk you into this because you see it everywhere. Nothing but despair and sadness, and then the conversation will turn into a primitive slavery, like old plantation conversation. We need to get jobs for the Negroes. Black folks needs more jobs. I'm not saying jobs are bad. I'm not saying jobs are bad, but y'all know what job stands for. What does it stand for? Just over broke. Just over broke. That job ain't gonna make you wealthy. That job is not gonna give you no real power. That job's gonna give you just enough money so that you don't die of starvation or something, and you have a place to live, and then you can keep showing up to work every day. They give you just enough like almost like a basketball player where they're like, we're not gonna pay you, but we're gonna buy you some gym shoes and a uniform just enough for you to show up and play for us every day. We're not really trying to help you thrive. We're not trying to get you into the owner's box. You're not gonna be Jerry Jones. You're gonna be like an unpaid member of the Dallas Cowboys. That's pretty much all you're going to be. So what I'm saying is at the end of the day, jobs have to be a stepping stone. That's my point. Jobs should be from the time children are babies. We should teach them, yeah, get a job until you can own something. Or if you have a job, make sure you own something. Or if you like your job, keep your job, but make sure you always have options. Options, options, options. Options are freedom. That's what they are. So make sure you have options, make sure you own something, and then if you don't like the job, you should be able to walk away, get a better job, or go and start something on your own. So this is why you build your networks. This is why relationships matter, because if you're an asshole, nobody's going to want to start a business with you. But if you're a good man, then a great woman will want to marry you and be by your side. If you're a good woman, then guess what? You're going to have lots of friends that are going to want to work with you. They're going to share networks with you, and you're going to succeed together. You're going to thrive together. Want an example? Yesterday, Jay Cameron came in, and Jay is a good guy. And by God, my goal when I met him was I said, I'm going to be a good guy too, so we can be two good guys helping each other out. Neither one of us showed up as the alpha asshole who disrespects people because somehow he thinks he's the most important person in the room. I never do that. It's like, oh, you're a great man. You're a great man too. You're a good guy. You're a good guy too. Hey man, how can I help you? I don't know. Let me tell me what I can do for you. That's how we talk to each other. And you know why we do it? Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we're helping each other succeed and survive. The world does not want a black man to be successful. This country does not want a black man to have power. This country does not want black women or black men to be together. They do not want black people unified. They do not want black people secure and safe and happy and wealthy and having stable families and all that. That's why they promote all this garbage to you in the media. That's why Sexy Red will get more radio play than India Ari, right? India Ari, no, nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear about some lady rapping about her baby daddy and how many STDs she caught last week. That's what they really want. They don't want to hear I'm not your average girl in the video, right? No. What are you talking about? Self-respect. You haven't earned the right to have that. So what I'm saying to you is, at the end of the day, I love what China's doing. Let's circle back to China before I get railroaded in too many other directions. I love what they're doing because they're protecting their economics. China is a powerful country because they are practicing Dr. Claude Anderson principles of powernomics, basic ideas. We sell stuff to y'all, you buy stuff from us. We are the drug pusher, you are the drug addict. The dealer always has more power than the addict. We support our businesses and you support our businesses. But we don't we don't support your businesses. We in China, we don't buy American products. We buy Chinese products. If you go to China, if go to China, I dare you to do this. Go to China and I want you to look up Facebook on your phone and see if you can find Facebook on your phone or Instagram, or Google or Uber. I want you to try to catch an Uber in China. You'll be sitting on the corner for the rest of your life because there is no Uber in China. They said, "Oh no, we know need Uber. We make our own Uber." So and that's where they pour their resources. So these are simple ideas. This is going to lead to China and Chinese youth being the most dominant on earth. One other fact about China that's really interesting is they produce more engineers in China every year than India, Japan, and the United States combined, and their engineers are more qualified. They can go on the job, and because they don't spend all their time in college, like going to frat parties and step shows and whatever, they actually learn stuff. So they can actually go on the job on day one, start getting patents, and start actually being productive on day one. American engineers need 2 years of training after college before they can even become an asset to the company. This is just a fact. Look this up. So ultimately, when you talk about power and influence and things like that, when you own assets, you tend to have more power over your life. And then eventually, when you have an agenda or an objective, you're better able to pursue that objective because you're not hamstrung by economic limitations and economic challenges. So this is the mandate for the 21st century and beyond. This is what intelligent Black people are doing. This is the plan for our community. This is where we're going to be. And it's going to take time to build all that. But you put a good 20 or 30 years into this, you become incredibly dominant and you have a lot of leverage in the world. The Jewish community did that with Hollywood, by the way. If you ever go watch that book, I've told you all about how the Jews invented an empire of their own, how the Jews invented Hollywood. Fascinating book. It's a great blueprint. I have nothing against that community. I admire their power. I don't like what's going on in the Middle East. So let's be clear about that. I think they're abusing their power. But still, it's their power to abuse. And I don't want you to abuse your power, but I want you to just have some. Black power is something that is earned through economics. And the book, Tanya, is called An Empire of Their Own: How the Jews Invented Hollywood. Very fascinating book. All right. So anyway, let me finish up really quick. Number one, tonight, Jay Cameron is doing the informational for the trip to Ghana. If you want to know about the trips that we're going to take, text the word travel to the phone number 87948. And you can also go to b1voyages.com. So text travel to 87948 or go to b1, the number one voyages.com. And there's other trips on there that you can feel free to go on with us. Also, number two, if you're in Prime, that video I texted out to you guys. If you have an interest in stock options, text the word options to the number 87948. And I sent you a video on how to sell some puts. And I think selling puts, it seems like it's already worked out. Like the stock market's going up today. So if you sold puts, then you actually were able to generate some money from that. Number three, later on today at noon, we're doing our Stock Market Investors Club. So if you want to give that a try, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com and do a free trial. Somebody put that in the chat, please. drboycestockmarket.com. And also, you can share your membership with your entire family. And Dorothea says, I did not get the video. Can you resend? Yes, I will resend it. If you ever miss something and don't see it, don't forget we have a great support team. You can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And Amani is right there, and Chanel, and they'll take good care of you. So email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Okay, Shirlene says, I missed what you said. I'm at work. Okay, well, I'll give you, there's a link actually. Today, this class is recorded on drboycetv.com. So I'll put this link in the chat for anybody that wants to watch the recording or maybe share it with anybody in your family if you think this message was beneficial for you. So here we go. There's the link. All right. So anyway, have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Make sure you're on the text list for this class. Text the word morning to the phone number 87948. Or if you live in another country, just go to drboyceelevate.com.